devastating news, I would say, but I don't think it was unexpected given the time period of the season. Caitlin Clark announced on her social media that she will miss the rest of the season.
The WNBA just got hit with a truth bomb, so explosive it might actually change everything. 2 minutes ago, basketball legend Candace Parker stepped into the spotlight and absolutely obliterated the league's anti-Caitlin Clark agenda with words so powerful they're sending shockwaves through every front office in women's basketball. What she revealed will make your jaw drop. And honestly, it might be the wake-up call that saves the WNBA from itself. Picture this.
He captioned it in short, in part. I had hoped to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play this season. I spent hours in the gym every day with a singular goal of getting back out there. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling. She was limited to 13.
Caitlin Clark, the most electrifying player women's basketball has seen in decades, just announced she's done for the entire season. Not just a few games, not just playoffs, the whole thing. Gone. And while the league scrambles to spin this disaster, Candace Parker just stepped forward and said what everyone was thinking, but nobody had the courage to say out loud. The WNBA's golden goose isn't just injured. She's been systematically destroyed by a league that claims to love her.
Protect the very star keeping it alive.
She was limited to 13 games this season, and she hasn't played since July 15th when she suffered a right groin injury in the final minute of the Fever's win versus the Sun right before the All-Star game.
I mean, that's our girl. You know, that's our girl. And I feel like no matter what happened, you have to protect.
While refusing to protect her. Clark's social media announcement hit like a lightning bolt. After grinding for hours every single day in rehabilitation, after pouring her soul into getting back on that court, she had to face the brutal reality that her body simply couldn't take anymore. Limited to just 13 games this season, watching from the sidelines as
her just kind of having that approach of doing what's best for her is all we can ask for, because we'd rather Caitlin sit out and then come back next season and we're ready to roll and we're ready to rock. And so we've just been supporting her, and she's been
team fought battles she desperately wanted to join. The disappointment in her carefully worded statement was palpable, but fans could read between the lines. This wasn't just about an injury. This was about a broken system. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. This isn't just bad news for Indiana. This is a full-blown catastrophe for the entire WNBA. Because let's be brutally honest about something the league doesn't want to admit. Caitlin Clark isn't just another player. She's the entire reason millions of people suddenly cared about women's basketball. And now, with her sidelined indefinitely, whispers are getting louder about the unthinkable. What if Clark decides she's had enough and walks away from professional basketball altogether? That nightmare scenario keeps executives awake at night because they know the truth. Remove Caitlin Clark from the equation, and the WNBA doesn't just lose a star, it loses its entire identity. The league thought it had
been supporting us. She's always there. We're getting to watch film, and she's in there walking through saying, hey, and we're like, get out, go do what you need to do. But I mean, she's still the same. And I feel like our approach, because we've been missing her for so long, is just to come in and compete. And we have a good rhythm, I think, with
time to fix its problems, to create a sustainable foundation beyond one incredible player. But time just ran out, and they're staring into an abyss of their own making. The injury timeline tells a story of negligence that would be criminal if it weren't so predictable. Clark, just 2 years into what should have been a legendary professional career, suffered her season-ending groin and leg injuries during the final minute of a victory against the Sun on July 15th, right before the All-Star game, when she should have been celebrating her incredible rise.
But Caitlin was unable to fully reincorporate back into practice, and you know, she had never missed a game in her collegiate career or first year in the WNBA. So this is definitely a blow, I'm sure, for the organization, but also for her. Fever went 8-5 when Clark played, and
her body finally said enough. The relentless punishment, the constant physical abuse, the complete lack of protection from officials, it all caught up in one devastating moment. Enter Candace Parker, and this is where everything changes. Parker isn't just any retired player throwing opinions around social media. She's a legend who lived through the exact same systemic failures, who made the exact same mistakes Clark was being pressured to make. And when Parker spoke up about Clark's decision to shut down for the season, She didn't just offer support. She detonated a truth bomb that the WNBA never wanted dropped. Parker's message was crystal clear and devastating in its honesty. She admitted that late in her own career, she ignored warning signs.
15-15 without her. You all did win the Commissioner's Cup for the first time in franchise history without her. So maybe that is also another precursor. But big picture from the outside looking in, I have been a player that has had and
pushed her body past the breaking point and paid a price that haunts her to this day. Her advice to Clark wasn't just medical, it was survival. Don't let this league bully you into risking your entire future. Don't make the same mistakes I made. Take care of your body first, because nobody else will. But Parker went deeper than just injury advice. She exposed something the WNBA desperately wanted to keep hidden. They don't protect stars, they exploit them. For decades, this league has survived by squeezing every drop of value from their biggest names while offering virtually nothing in return. They'll plaster your face on every promotional poster, brag about your ratings in every press conference. But when it comes time to actually safeguard your health and career, they're mysteriously absent. The numbers tell a story that should terrify league executives.
And there is a difference in being a role player and coming in and playing a role and coming in off of an injury. There is a rhythm. But when you are Caitlin Clark and you have the ball in your hands and you are on the other team's scouting report, to come in half and not be able to be
executives. Every metric that matters in professional sports, attendance, television ratings, merchandise sales, absolutely exploded because of Caitlin Clark. She didn't just elevate the Indiana Fever. She dragged the entire WNBA kicking and screaming into mainstream relevance. Arenas that used to echo with emptiness suddenly sold out months in advance. Television networks that barely acknowledged women's basketball started bidding wars for broadcast rights. Jersey sales that used to be statistical footnotes became legitimate revenue streams. And here's the part that should keep Commissioner Kathy Engelbert awake at night. Those fans didn't show up because they suddenly discovered a passion for the WNBA.
And that amount of, I would say, shape, rhythm of the game, because the rhythm of the game changes towards the end of the year. And so when it started getting closer to the end of the regular season, I was like, it's dangerous to come back during playoff basketball because the whole flow, the physicality, all of that is different. And so I know it's difficult to kind of take
brand. They showed up for Caitlin Clark, period. They bought tickets to watch her play. They tuned in to see her highlights. They wore her jersey, not a league logo. Take her away, and you're not just losing a player. You're losing an entire audience that couldn't care less about basketball without her in it. The what-if scenario that nobody wants to discuss is becoming more realistic by the day. What happens if Caitlin Clark looks at this treatment, this systematic failure to protect the league's most valuable asset, and decides she's done? What if she walks away from professional basketball entirely? The fallout would be absolutely nuclear. Consider this. Caitlin Clark doesn't need the WNBA nearly as much as the WNBA needs her. She could quit tomorrow.
Take time and understand the big picture, especially when you're living with tunnel vision and you've worked so hard to get to where you're at. But it's the smart thing. And I'm proud of this generation for taking the time they need, looking at the bigger picture, and making sure that they get healthy. So Caitlin Clark.
And still have her pick of opportunities. Broadcasting networks would throw ridiculous money at her. International leagues would offer tax-free salaries and actual protection from officials. Endorsement deals would pour in from companies desperate to associate with her brand. She could build a media empire that dwarfs anything the WNBA has ever accomplished. Meanwhile, the league would collapse overnight. Those record-breaking attendance figures would evaporate. Television ratings would plummet back to the basement where they lived for decades. Sponsor dollars would dry up faster than water in a desert. The WNBA would slide right back into irrelevance, begging networks for scraps of airtime and praying anyone, might care enough to watch. But here's what makes the situation even more infuriating. It was completely avoidable. The league had the perfect opportunity to show they'd learned from decades of mistakes. Instead, they repeated every single one of them with devastating efficiency. Game after game, Clark got hip-checked, elbowed, and shoved while officials swallowed their whistles. The physical abuse was so blatant it looked more like hockey than basketball. League leadership stayed mysteriously quiet while their golden goose got battered into submission. The team statistics reveal just how catastrophic this injury really is. The Indiana Fever went 8-5 when Clark played and 15-15 without her. They even won the Commissioner's Cup for the first time in franchise history while she was sidelined. But those numbers are deceiving because they don't capture what Clark brought beyond wins and losses. She brought electricity. She brought must-see television. She brought legitimacy to a league that had struggled for respect for over 2 decades. Parker's warning about playoff basketball adds another layer of tragedy to this story. She explained that postseason basketball isn't just competitive, it's brutal. Faster, harder, more physical. The absolute worst possible environment to throw a star who's still recovering from injury. Parker used a perfect analogy. You don't bring a Ferrari into a demolition derby. But that's exactly what the WNBA wanted to do with Clark. Push her back onto the court before she was ready just to squeeze out a few more rating points and playoff revenue. The power dynamic in this situation is fascinating and terrifying for league executives. Clark holds all the cards, and she's starting to realize it. This isn't some rookie who needs the league's blessing to build a career. This is a generational talent who could walk away tomorrow and build something bigger than the WNBA itself. She could create her own basketball league, her own media company, her own empire that makes the WNBA look like a high school operation. Fan loyalty statistics tell the real story about Clark's impact and the league's vulnerability. Social media is flooded with variations of the same devastating message. If Clark's not playing, I'm not watching. That's not loyalty to the WNBA brand. That's personal loyalty to one incredible player who brought magic to a sport that had been stuck in neutral for years. If Clark walks away, those fans walk with her, leaving empty arenas and unwatched broadcasts in their wake. The trust breakdown between Clark and the league leadership is becoming impossible to ignore. When she announced her injury, Clark thanked her fans and teammates. Notice what she didn't mention. The league office, the referees, the leadership structure that was supposed to protect and support her. That omission speaks volumes about where her loyalty lies and how badly the league has failed her. Parker's personal experience adds credibility to her criticism that league executives can't dismiss. She lived through the exact same exploitation, made the same mistakes Clark was being pressured to make, and paid a price that shortened her career. When a legend of Parker's caliber steps forward and says the league hasn't learned anything from decades of destroying its stars, that's not opinion. That's documented evidence. The historical context makes this moment even more critical. The WNBA has always survived by cycling through superstars. Diana Taurasi carried them for years. Then Candace Parker. Then Maya Moore. But Caitlin Clark is different. She's not just another great player in a line of great players. She's the player who finally broke through to mainstream American sports consciousness. You don't replace that. You don't rebuild after losing that. You collapse. Clark's decision-making throughout this crisis shows a maturity that should humble league executives. Every force in professional sports was pushing her to return. Media pressure, sponsor expectations, playoff narratives, fan disappointment. Everything pointed toward rushing back to the court. But she chose her future over everyone else's immediate gratification. She understood her value better than the people who were supposed to be protecting it. This isn't just another injury story or playoff controversy. This is the WNBA's crown jewel sitting on the sideline, while one of the greatest players in league history publicly validates her decision to prioritize her health over the league's revenue goals. When Candace Parker steps forward and says Caitlin Clark made the right choice, that's not just support, that's a damning indictment of everything wrong with women's professional basketball. The league now faces a binary choice that will define its future. They can finally step up, create real protection for their stars, and prove they're capable of managing success. Or they can watch Caitlin Clark walk out the door and take the entire future of women's professional basketball with her. Because once a player realizes they don't need the institution, that institution loses its grip forever. Here's the brutal reality. Caitlin Clark's injuries have silenced the WNBA, but her quitting would end it. Candace Parker just made that crystal clear. The league cannot survive without Clark. And if they keep ignoring the warning signs, if they keep pushing their stars into the ground, then one day Clark might make the decision no press release can spin. She'll walk away for good, and the WNBA's instant regret will become their obituary.